Ladies and gentlemen, the Durham probe has already indicted three people specifically for setting up and framing Trump. One for lying to a FICA judge. So Kevin Kleinsmith, the bureau attorney, lying to a FICA judge to prolong investigations into Carter Page. They had nothing on Trump, so they had to deceive a judge. Then Igor Danchenko, the Steele subsource. The Steele dossier was a fabricated compilation of baseless claims. Nonsense. The United States government literally used a whole bunch of fabricated documents, fantasies, to investigate an incoming presidential candidate because his direct political rival, the Clinton campaign and the DNC, purchased those documents. Okay, the third indictment, and Danchenko was one of the sources, okay, of this nonsense, and he later retracted everything that was in the dossier and then ended up lying to FBI officials in doing so, okay? Because initially when they were starting investigations, people were saying, oh my God, Trump this, Trump that. Then when they were under oath again, oh yeah, well we didn't, when we initially told the FBI wasn't exactly true, well then that they committed crimes then. The third indictment is Michael Sussman, who was literally working for Clinton. Did not tell that to James Baker, the legal counsel at the Bureau. Okay, hit subscribe to this channel right now. I will have a live stream today at around 5 p.m. Maybe something like around 5 p.m. or so. And it could be earlier, but watch this channel. Watch this channel around 4 or 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm not exactly sure, but watch this channel. We will have a live stream, the first live stream in a while, just because the uploads have been doing great. And but I want to talk about this during the live stream today, so be here. Hit subscribe to this channel. We're almost we're basically 195 now, almost. Tell your friends, hit subscribe. If you want to support my work to my new Patreons, thank you so much. The Sussman indictment was very interesting because Michael Sussman tried to get the judge to remove the background within the lawsuit that explains Clinton paid people to surveil Trump, to engage in surveillance, to obtain information. It's within these indictments. The wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats who convinced themselves that Trump is the embodiment of evil, they could never look in the mirror and say, oh, we set up and framed an incoming candidate. It's impossible for them. I know these people. It's literally impossible for them to look in the mirror and say, okay, I can look at President Trump, former President Trump, and I can say, he shouldn't have pushed the envelope a little bit in terms of rhetoric. I can say that. On Twitter, he should never have been on Twitter because it was just politically not good. But I can also say he was a great president in terms of the economy. No, there's no doubt. We're heading into a recession with mashed potato brains and the adults in charge. We can say that his foreign policy was infinitely better than what's going on now. Well, that's a fact. One of the worst nightmares in European history is taking place now. And who's president? Oh, that's right, Democrats, the adults in the room. The same people who said the sky would fall if Trump were elected. The sky is now falling and they're fine with it. But see, again, it is impossible. It is physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually impossible for morally superior, wonderful, beautiful liberal Democrats to look and say, oh, the Democratic Party, Clinton, and others set up and framed Trump. And the Washington Post has a great article today. And the headline is, Trump, through his lawsuit, accidentally proves that Clinton wasn't the driving force behind his investigations. There's a paragraph here. In other words, as Trump and his lawyers are trying to prove that Clinton was the driving force behind investigations into Russian interference, they were relying on documents released as part of that interference effort. Oh my God! It's some mixture of dishonest and galling. It's not even the most ridiculous part of the case the lawsuit tries to make. So, this is an article. Trump accidentally proves the Clinton campaign wasn't the driving force of the Russia probe. This is what the Washington Post does. And this is why the Durham probe will help not only with new indictments to prove Trump's case, not specifically to do that, but the new indictments coming will prove Trump's case. But this is what the Washington Post does. The lawsuit does not state that Clinton was the driving force or the reason that others. A driving force is a phrase that could. It's this phrase that can mean a whole bunch of things. The lawsuit states very, very accurately something the Washington Post will not accept. This is very simple. Washington Post writer is very brilliant. The author is very brilliant. So if he ever watches this, very brilliant author, wonderful, he can understand what the lawsuit and what the Durham probe and what all of this is about. Clinton hired Sussman. Clinton and the DNC purchased the Steele dossier through Elias and Perkins Coie. Clinton hired Sussman to spread a fantasy, a narrative that Trump was communicating with servers in Moscow through Alpha Bank. Clinton hired Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele to compile a completely fabricated dossier, which would then be used by Comey and McCabe and Brennan and Clapper and others to further the hoax that Trump was installed by the Kremlin. The DNC hired the third-party tech firm that looked at DNC servers. The United States government never looked at DNC servers. That never happened. DNC servers were never analyzed by the United States government, either the Central Intelligence Agency or the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the National Security Agency or anyone. So therefore, the evidence that this Washington Post article is citing is literally evidence obtained through third-party tech firms, operatives that were employed by Clinton. The entire driving force, Trump accidentally proves that Clinton campaign wasn't the driving force. The driving force could have been Comey. It could have been McCabe. It could have been the DNC. It could have been Clapper or Brennan. You want to talk about driving force? The impetus, the beginning of all of this is linked to money exchanging hands, starting with the DNC and Clinton, and an example of people getting hired by the DNC and Clinton to obtain information on Trump, to spread lies about Trump, and to get government officials and media, BuzzFeed, Mother Jones, to pump out fake news regarding Trump and the Kremlin. This is not difficult to understand. The whole point of the DNC being hacked was that the Kremlin wanted everyone to know Bernie Sanders was cheated. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Okay, that's what the Washington Post called me. Everybody knew that Bernie Sanders was cheated. And you go from Bernie to Trump because you want a great economy and a great foreign policy. A foreign policy opposed by the Lincoln Project. So that's what Trump was less militant, less hawkish than President Obama, than mashed potato brains Biden, and then Clinton, infinitely less. And we had record low unemployment, record low Black and Latino unemployment, inflation at less than 2%, gas prices at less than $3, around $3. We had economic growth. We were into a recession with leaving aside Trump's last year in office when Democrats gleefully, tanked the economy because of you know what, and pushed in large part to push Trump out of office. There were political concerns regarding all of that also. And so the point is that the interference was information that Bernie Sanders was being cheated by emails that showed it was not fair and neutral, and that Debbie Wasserman Schultz lied, and Clinton lied, and the DNC lied. They all lied. Okay. All of this, the interference, was never proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. The United States government does not know, without a shadow of a doubt, cannot guarantee that another country broke into the DNC. They are almost 99% certain. Fantastic. But they're relying on a third-party tech firm to look at the DNC servers. Vice and other publications have admitted this. That company that looked in DNC servers was paid by Democrats. You would never allow Trump and Republicans to pay a company to say that the Republican National Committee was hacked by a hostile foreign country on behalf of their direct political rival. You wouldn't allow Rudy Giuliani and Trump to purchase a dossier on Biden. We weren't even allowed, as a society, to actually talk about and discuss legitimate emails that were from Hunter's wonderful laptop that he left in probably a drunken stupor at a computer repair store. We weren't even allowed to talk about that. The New York Post was suspended, and every social media algorithm prevented that from discussion. So forget about Trump purchasing a steal dossier against Clinton or Biden. We can't even talk about legitimate stories, like actual real emails that the government's using now in their investigation of Hunter, according to the New York Times. So we can't even use any of that. And what the Washington Post today, Trump accidentally proves the Clinton campaign wasn't the driving force of the Russia probe. If you want to say the Clinton campaign was the driving force or not driving force, who knows what driving force entails? Clinton purchased the investigations by hiring attorneys, by paying companies to create the Steele dossier, and the DNC and Clinton by paying third-party tech firms. And all the information was, you can look at people like BuzzFeed, Mother Jones, Peter Strzok, James Baker especially, who is front and center with all of this. McCabe, Comey, Clapper, Brennan. It's interesting, Clapper and Brennan aren't named in the suit, I don't think. But you have Bruce and Nellie Orr, who are linked to the Steele dossier. You have all these people, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You have all these people named in the lawsuit. Jake Sullivan, who helped further the Alpha Bank nonsense. So the Washington Post writes this story, and I'll just say that they're missing the entire picture. Not only was Clinton the driving force, if you want to say she wasn't the driving force, then she initiated a driving force. The only reason Trump was investigated was because the DNC got Crossfire Hurricane was started immediately after the Clinton email debacle, where she had top secret and special access program intelligence on servers running outside of the United States government. Comey then had to go to bat and save Clinton from indictment. So did Peter Strzok. They did that. This is not rocket science. Trump would have been indicted immediately. Clinton was not. They would have gone after Trump with such passion, it would be unbelievable. Clinton was obviously, they did not go after Clinton. They did not indict Clinton because they said there was no intent there. Nobody said, Trump worked with the Kremlin, but there was no intent there. Okay, they were trying to pin a hoax on him. And then after that, Crossfire Hurricane, or perhaps during that, Crossfire Hurricane was started. And Crossfire Hurricane was started because of the Steele dossier, because of the alleged hack, which, let's say there was a hack, but it was only a hack according to a third-party tech firm. The United States government never looked at those servers. But let's say that's accurate and it was hacked by a hostile foreign country. What was that hostile foreign country trying to prove? That Bernie Sanders was cheated. Again, getting back to the democracy we have in our country, the beautiful democracy where Democrats can't even have a functioning primary. So So Putin wanted us to know Bernie Sanders was cheated, apparently. But what happened is, Trump has nothing to do with that. So then they investigate Trump with a dossier literally purchased by the Clinton campaign and DNC, and an Alpha Bank story literally fabricated by Sussman on behalf of Clinton, and a whole bunch of other, like, all these working and moving parts. Then BuzzFeed and Mother Jones and the Washington Post, New York Times, social media algorithms never said, no, we can't verify the dossier. We can't verify any allegations. Gee, you know what? This nonsense could be disinformation from another country. No. It was anything alleged against Trump should stick, and we should talk about it, and we should be suspicious forever. But you can't allow that with Democrats. So the Washington Post conveniently omits the fact that Clinton literally purchased, literally paid for, and the DNC literally gave money to third-party tech firms, attorneys, operatives, and just coincidentally had a liberal monstrosity, public relations monstrosity of all these publications fomenting the same nonsense without a shred of evidence. And when the ODNI and DHS reports were written, they're written with high to moderate confidence assessments. The Washington Post should actually read the ODNI and DHS reports, and the DHS report says, oh, there's no guarantees here. So there's no guarantees, high to moderate confidence assessment, then that's confirmed by a Senate panel. The Senate panel confirms a high to moderate confidence assessment. Are you kidding me? There was never any evidence. That's why Trump was never indicted. That's why Trump has never been indicted. He will never be indicted for anything. He didn't commit a crime. Not his tax returns, campaign finance, January, Russia, nothing. Stormy owes him money. Now, if this case isn't thrown out, which I don't think it will be, then it's really game over for everyone in that, all the defendants, because Discovery, Trump has nothing to hide. They're the ones who went after Trump and set him up and fabricated everything. Give me your thoughts below. And the Durham probe is going to indict people. It's mentioned 13 times within that lawsuit. So they're going to indict people, which will help that civil case tremendously. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right